So the past week has been pretty tough, right? Tariffs on, tariffs off, a bunch of uncertainty news in the market. What is setting up for Cardano? I want to make a video talking about what I think Cardano is doing and where I think it's positioning, and how I think like you and I can position in Cardano to still have a very bullish outlook on the asset, even though crypto's going down, even though Bitcoin and SP 500 and Treasuries, it's all getting kind of out of whack. But on the Cardano chart, I think that there's a lot of indicators showing us where good support can be, where we could be replicating another big move upwards, where we might be back testing the stage one base that it had for the past 2 years. And so I think we can look at Cardano through a positive mindset. And there are some key things we can look at that if these happen, maybe we should go back into an accumulation mode back towards the lows for Cardano. And it wouldn't really be the end of the world. The big thing I want to give to people is like, we're in Cardano because we're trying to have an outpaced return on Bitcoin, right? We're trying to go for the altcoin season. We're trying to generate a little bit more wealth, maybe like Cardano just as a better asset, all this stuff, right? And so this cycle has not been perfect. It's been far from perfect. In fact, let me show you this right here. 2021 cycle, based on the moving averages, based on the timing, it was all so clean. It was so clean and so perfect and so very easily replicable, right? But this cycle has been a little bit muddier. You can see that here by this chop zone that we had in like 2019, 2020. We are still going through that chop zone today, and it's making the market very hard to understand. I want to try and simplify what I'm looking at on Cardano and why I still think Cardano can be a very, very good asset in the near term for the rest of 2025 if a couple things happen. Okay. And so, what are those things? The first thing that I think we should look at is stage analysis. Okay, so all markets are going to go through four phases. Stage one, accumulation zone at the bottom, which we can see here on Cardano. You can see, let's see right here, that we kind of have these two scenarios. This stage one, where it's kind of making these highs, but kind of getting rejected back in and trying to break out, but failing to break out. We also can see it right here, where it's getting up here, making a high, kind of breaking this downwards trend, but then falling and then trying to break out and coming back in and having this line as a lot of resistance. You can see it here, you can see it here, you can see it here. And so this is the stage one accumulation zone. Whether you're looking at last cycle or you're looking at this cycle, it's kind of the same. They have a stage one accumulation zone where many people are buying in. The next thing that happens is you have a breakout from stage one on a higher amount of volume, right? An above average level of volume. And if you come in here, you can kind of see where this broke out here in 2020. You can see how these volume bars are really breaking out on the breakout, and it's showing that more either institutional buyers are playing or retail is really just starting to buy in and drive things much higher. And you can see that here as well. Even on this false breakout, you can see how volume did get a little bit higher. This volume is going down because I'm using a Binance chart. You can see up here a Binance chart, and we know Binance delisted ADA and a bunch of other assets. So that's why volume is actually decreasing across these couple years. But if we were to zoom in, you can really see how these green bars right here are much higher than the previous months before. And then on this breakout here that happened in November, you can see how that green level of volume is much higher than all of the volume before it by a 3 or 4 times, two to four times magnitude, which is exactly what you want on a breakout. Now, as we see this stage one being broken out, the next logical thing to move into is a stage two. Last cycle was super clean. This is super clean. A breakout, a continuation, a retrace to the moving average, and then a continuation higher. That is a classic stage two. That is a perfect scenario. And a lot of scenarios look like that. The problem right now is we have so much intervention into the markets by outside factors, tariffs, uncertainty. There's just a change in presidential election. So many things are going on that people are just not really sure what's going on. And you can see how this stage two is getting muddy. It's getting very muddy. And what I think could be happening is we are still in the stage two. What I'm actually watching is, can we stay in the stage two outside of the stage one? And is this just a back test to the stage one door before heading higher? That would mean we would need some kind of catalyst in late April, May, kind of lining up with the global M2. Bitcoin's kind of got a late April, early May blast off date for keeping in line with global M2. And so the big question is, are the tariffs going to cause something? Is the market going to cause something? Is M2 going to push higher? And is that going to cause that catalyst that we need for Cardano to come down, touch the stage one, right? The stage one door, retest it, and then continue on to stage two. And if I just zoom in here, I think we have a lot of good information here about where a support is being built. You can see that we had this wick down here, and then we had this wick down here, both hitting about the same level, about 51 cents for ADA. And so I like that there is a gap here between this support and between where our stage one is, signifying Cardano's not going all the way down. It's not retracing fully. Now, I think two things we should be watching. If the stage two is to continue, Cardano would maybe accumulate in this area for a little bit before breaking above this kind of like trend line that is pushing ADA price down. You can actually see we have a very similar thing right here. Not 100% perfect, but you can see how we kind of have this reduction trend line kind of pushing ADA down, but it's also moving into a support level right here. You see, it's kind of building its own base here. And as it's kind of falling into this wedge, you would kind of consider that as like a bullish pennant a little bit. This is kind of a very muddy version of it, breaking to the upside. And the big question is the same thing happening here. So what I will be watching is Cardano going to hold this level as support, going to stay above the stage one door, and then going to have a catalyst, some piece of news or some piece of something that pushes price higher as volume is dropping? Remember, I told you about the volume. We can come in here and look at how volume is actually decreasing into the move. And so volume contracts, meaning that sellers and buyers, people putting ADA on the open market, is at a low. And when it's on a low, that means a large price or a large purchase can actually push price much higher, which is exactly what we want. We saw that right here. Volume is decreasing into the wedge before a massive amount of volume pushed ADA higher. We're seeing the same thing here today. If we zoom all the way in here, you can see how volume is actually decreasing into the wedge. And I actually really love that our buy volume is far outpacing our sell volume. You can see back here, if we look all the way back here in the stage four downtrend, you can see that sell volume was actually flipping buy volume. And you can see here in the stage two, this massive rise back in 2021, buy volume was the big player. But as this switched over from stage two to stage four, this is a stage three transition. Stage four, we now have sell volume being the massive player over the couple years, 2022 and 2023. Now it looks like we're shifting precisely right here where sell volume and buy volume are kind of matched up. And now buy volume looks to actually be taking over. So that is a very good sign to me. And I still think that we can be bullish as long as Cardano holds kind of this area between 46 cents and about 51 cents. With every bull case, there's also a bear case. I think that the bear case could be that, yeah, maybe the market really doesn't figure this thing out. Maybe the recession really hits in like late 2025. Maybe the tariffs really stay. Maybe this all gets a lot worse before it gets a lot better. We've already seen a 20% drop in the S&P 500, and I think Bitcoin is actually on a very good level of support as well. We're seeing a massive rally actually this week. We're seeing that in Cardano. We're seeing it in Bitcoin. We're seeing it in Ethereum. We're seeing it in pretty much everything as the tariffs get paused. And so it's a lot of chaos, a lot of not understanding what's going to happen next, right? That's what's fueling all this. And so the bear case, I think, that you can be prepared for really isn't that bad. In my opinion, the bear case really isn't that bad. It's bad because it's going to push the patience and the gratification down the line, which I feel like we've already been doing, right? We've been sitting around for a couple years investing and accumulating in the stage one, in this beautiful stage one. We've been buying, you and I have been buying ADA at 40 cents, 30 cents, 50 cents, really adding to our bags and adding to our positions. And it's been great. It will be great when Cardano goes back to an all-time high. But the thing about if the economic situation really pushes crypto back into a bear market, Bitcoin back into like 60,000, 50,000, 40,000, right? S&P down into the 4,000 level again, and Cardano back down here into the 40 cent, 30 cent range. If that were to happen, I don't think it would be the end of the world. What I would be watching is basically just see if Cardano fails to hold this support around 51 cents, 50 cents, somewhere in there, and breaks back into our stage one base. If that happens, we can consider this a failed stage two rally, just like this over here. And we would then just go back. Well, many investors would go back and just do an accumulation mode. At that point, if Cardano does break this support and falls into the stage one, I'm going to take a break. I haven't been buying Cardano at all. I probably bought my last ADA on the rise up here, somewhere in this range. And as Cardano comes into these moving averages, I'm not buying. I think it's not a good decision to buy. I think we wait for the market to tell us what to do. I bought plenty back here in this range, in this accumulation zone. So I have plenty. I have Cardano native tokens I can liquidate back into ADA. And so what I would recommend is that if Cardano is below this moving average, still building in this wedge, maybe just wait and see what happens. wait and see if Cardano breaks lower. If it breaks higher, then you continue to buy into the uptrend. If it breaks lower, let it break down. Let somebody else be the buyer down here for a little bit, and we can see as it plays out down here in the stage one when we should start to accumulate again towards the end of that stage one, right? Maybe that pushes crypto into another 2026 bear market, kind of getting us back in line with the next 4-year cycle. And so maybe sometime in 2026 would be a good time to start an accumulation late in the 2026 year before, like 2027 continues us into the 2029 cycle. I also think this chart is very good in perspective with ADA dominance and ADA Bitcoin. So I want to show those real quick, just kind of wrap this up. Again, on here, we have the 30 and 40 week moving average. This on a weekly chart is perfect for stage analysis. And you can see the stages that Cardano rolls throughout the crypto cycle. And look at where we are today. I think we're very simply repeating this kind of a little retrace off of a big move up. And that's what we're kind of doing here. The thing I like about what we're doing here is it seems like Cardano's holding a good little bit of support in this range somewhere, like a mini base. And so the big thing, I mean, really what we want to see is where does ADA Bitcoin kind of retrace to? And so we know we put in the low here. It's definitely, in my opinion, not going to go this low anymore. But last cycle, it did come down and kind of touch this support line again. Not really sure if that's going to happen this time or not. Not sure if Cardano is going to break above. It looks like it probably will come down a little bit if this moving averages, holds as a resistance level with this resistance line. I wouldn't be afraid to expect Cardano to come down here a little bit, maybe even test all the way down here like it did last cycle. But the low, in my opinion, is definitely already in. And, I think that ADA Bitcoin will go up either late in 2025 or, maybe it's 2026. I don't know. Based on the cycle, based on the pattern, I think we're still in this same pattern right here where we set a low, we came out of the low. Last cycle, there wasn't really a retrace down to the low from this. And I don't think we should expect that either. I think Cardano has come up. Maybe it comes down to the support line support line again. But I think the low is in on ADA Bitcoin. And from here on out, somehow, some way, price is going to continue higher as it typically does. For ADA dominance, same thing. Weekly chart, same moving averages. This is a perfect way to analyze these charts, I think. And you can see the move. It's really mirroring ADA Bitcoin a lot. ADA dominance very mirrors ADA Bitcoin. The nice thing about ADA dominance this time is it looks like it was kind of in this, descending lower low pattern right here. This lower low structure and lower low up here. It's not really doing that 100% the same this time. In fact, I see like a path where, as of right now, it's still kind of holding a low and kind of making its way a little bit higher. It would be great if that can hold. It'd be great if ADA dominance could hold at that moving average and stay up here in this range. But if not, we could see probably a similar pattern where it kind of just comes down here a little bit. We did have this wick down here. Maybe it comes down and tests that wick before heading higher. But to me, I think we're still in line with this this trend of what ADA dominance is trying to do now, trying to gain leverage as it did last cycle. And finally, the last thing I want to say to round this out is that, yes, Cardano is, many people would say Cardano is struggling, right? It's like it's with an altcoin, it's not doing 100% perfect. I think Cardano is doing pretty okay compared to the rest of the market. And I would like to see, my bull case is if it can get above this breakout from this trend line, getting above the moving averages on good volume, that is 100% reason to buy more Cardano and expect it to go higher. So that's what I'd be watching. But when we compare Cardano to a lot of other assets like Solana, we can see how Cardano is actually still doing very, very well. You can see this is a Solana Cardano chart, meaning that as it goes down, Solana is bleeding in value of ADA. And so I personally think that it's Cardano's time to shine, and we can see how Solana has moved into a stage 4 decline, and really the only expectation is for it to continue lower as these moving averages push lower. Another thing we can look at is XRP ADA. Maybe it's ADA XRP. ADA XRP. And I haven't checked this chart in a minute, but yeah, it looks it looks a lot like Cardano could start to bottom against XRP, just as it has bottomed against Solana, for example. So it really seems like it's Cardano's time to shine in the crypto market, as a lot of other tokens have done well. Cardano has also done well, but it might be time for Cardano to start outperforming a lot of these other tokens. This was 2021 up here, and you can see since 2021 ADA has been falling against XRP. Well, at some point ADA is going to become undervalued in terms of XRP. That's how things always happen. That's a cycle. That's a classic thing. This is still in a stage 4 decline. But if Cardano, which it looks like it's finding support at this level, about this 0.27581 level, if it can continue to find support here, then it could be moving into a very early stage 1 accumulation zone, which could then lead to stage 4, which then mean ADA would, rapidly outpace XRP in gains. Let's see if there's also one more chart we can look at, ADA Ethereum. And ADA Ethereum is showing kind of the same thing. ADA, since this is 2021 up here, since 2021, ADA was falling against Ethereum. Well, what happened in November 2024, as Cardano had that big move upwards, is Cardano has consistently outperformed Ethereum since November 2024. And in my opinion, it looks like the trend will remain. I think Cardano could very easily continue and get up here into this range, back up here somewhere into this high region against Ethereum in 2025 or in 2026, depending on how the cycle continues to play out. But as we are seeing, it seems like even if the recession or the tariffs or whatever continue to happen, Cardano is still a better hold than Ethereum at this point in time. So I want to make all that saying that Cardano still, we could have done better in the cycle. It seems like the cycle, we could have timed an entry and exit a little better. I accept that we could have done that better, and that's why I'm trying to do more stage analysis now to learn or to push that idea a little bit better. But I still think Cardano's in a bullish territory, and if it can hold this support line and not move back into the stage 1, it will have a bullish future. And I think that Cardano still has a lot of room to grow on the upside. It's all going to depend on what happens in 2025, what the narrative is, what the tariffs are, what the economy is. Somehow, some way, though, if this support line holds true, I think the next logical place for Cardano to go is back above the trend line, back above the moving averages. And if that happens and it can enter back into this stage 2 zone where it's durably holding above the 30 and 40 week moving averages, you can reasonably expect this path higher to continue. If that path were to continue higher, the next thing you'd want to look at is when does Cardano come back and touch the moving average or break below the moving average as a time to sell your ADA into the next, stage 4 bear market. So this is what I'm watching on Cardano. If you are in the 20% of people that still are watching this video at the end, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below if you believe in Cardano and think that we can still go higher in 2025. I know that this economy session and everything's a total mess. Down in the description, I also have the Crypto 100x blueprint, dropping a lot of cool information, I think, on crypto. I did a trade where I could have had like 20% on Bodega, made about 8%, sharing a lot of wins and losses and lessons learned in there. So if that interests you, go ahead and join us in the newsletter down below. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will definitely see you in the next one for more Cardano and crypto content.